I have always been utterly fascinated by the great outdoors. Since my early childhood days, I have spent a great deal of my time hiking and camping in nature. Through these experiences, I have lost a great deal of fear and have never had any problems being alone in the wilderness. Sometimes even spending multiple days at a time in total solitude. Being at complete ease with myself and just enjoying my surroundings. I work seasonal, mostly on 6-month contracts. This means that I possess a lot of time and financial freedoms to do whatever I want when I'm not working. My last contract ended in early March of last year. After all the hustle and bustle of my overseas contract, I just needed a good week of pure relaxation. And going out on a solo hiking trip is exactly what relaxation means to me. After I arrived in my hometown, the thriving city of Phoenix, Arizona, I didn't hesitate, started packing my backpack. A one-man tent, MREs, warm clothes, and a couple 3 boxes of Marlboro Reds. Yeah, I plead guilty. As much as I'm concerned with my health and following a good workout routine, eating loads of micronutrients, I do smoke a lot. I guess that's just the way you do it as a retired U.S. Army Staff Sergeant. I lit up my smoke, threw my gear into the back of my truck, and headed to the Grand Canyon National Park. The distance is a good 5-hour drive, but here's where I made the decision that turned out to be the living nightmare just 24 hours later. I decided to head to the North Rim. Less tourists there. Figured I'd have more solitude. It was a total guarantee. Though, getting there would be an extra 4 hours of bumpy dirt roads. While I was driving, the landscape changed gradually from 21st century to total ancient nothingness. I was very excited about the adventures which were awaiting me. Well, that's what I thought back then. The dirt road finally came to a stop, and I parked my truck on an empty campground. The only thing that would let an observer know that this was an actual campsite was an old rundown pit latrine, some coals scattered across the grounds, resembling a fireplace. I was sure that this last hiker who had camped here must have left about a week ago. This fact filled me with total excitement. I packed my gear and headed off. It was the first time that I'd hiked the Northern Rim, but I had a rough idea where I was going to. My plan was to first head out eastbound, parallel to the rim, away from camping sites. After one overnight stay close to the rim, I'd eventually go northbound to go even further into the nothingness of the Grand Canyon National Park, away from the rim. The area I was planning to go to guarantees complete solitude, because nobody, except for me, will want to go away from that magnificent rim. Hiking alongside the rim was beautiful, and as the sun finally started setting, I had already covered 10 miles and decided to set up camp. I had dinner next to my campfire, and as the stars started to scatter the night sky, I finally had time for my much-needed relaxation. While I was sitting there, I lit up Marlboro on my left hand and a hot cup of instant coffee in my other hand. There was nothing but total solitude. I knew for a fact that the next asphalt road was a 4-hour hike, plus 4-hour drive. The next truck stop would probably be another 5-hour drive. And that was when I heard it. A loud thump. And a few seconds later, scratches. It sounded like 2 rocks were grinding against each other. Being familiar with local wildlife, I knew that the sounds could only be produced by a coyote. Should be scared off by the fire and the smell of a human. 3 minutes passed, and I heard the sound again, this time followed by scrubbing. It sounded like feet slipping off a rock. That was the moment I started to feel a little bit uneasy. I stood up, stared into the vastness of nothingness in the desert. It was then when I realized that the sounds were not coming from the open desert, but from behind me. Or from the Grand Canyon itself. How on earth was this possible? The canyon is up over a mile deep, with overhangs and ledges way too steep for any life form, apart from birds to hang on to. It was then that I came to the realization I had to go to the rim and see for myself what was going on there. I approached the rim slowly, tensing up, being prepared to make a run. I did not have a flashlight on me. I knew it'd be wiser to use the darkness as cover. I finally reached the edge. I scanned the deep walls of the canyon for the origin of the unearthly sounds. Steep downfalls, occasional overhangs, and tiny ledges, not more than 1.5 foot in width. I must have waited there for a good 20 minutes. But nothing. I came to the decision that my mind must have played a trick on me. That's how I hiked through the burning sun. Too many cigarettes and exhaustion have gotten the best of me. As I was about to turn around, something got my attention from the corner of my eye. A dark shadow not merging in with the canyon walls, approximately 20 feet below me. I started to tremble as I realized that something was crouching on the ledge below me in the canyon walls. I knew the time had come to turn on my flashlight. I immediately saw what was just about to become a living nightmare. A ghoulish creature with pale green skin crouched there in a complete inhuman way. Its head facing the bottom of the canyon. As I reached for a rock, the thing leaned forward, clenching its feet on the ledge, now hanging upside down, as if it was the easiest thing in the world. It jumped off into the darkness. The disturbing part is that I heard a loud scratching sound, followed by feet tapping after it jumped. This demonic, grotesque creature had just made a 30-foot jump and hung itself into the canyon walls again. I was in complete state of shock. In that moment, I saw an image of me standing there. Zooming out, it was very well clear that the distance of my car was a half a day's hike, followed by a 5-hour drive to reach civilization. I felt very small and lost in that moment. My paranoia was unbearable, and I made a run to my camp, only grabbing water bottles and my car keys. I knew the only way out of there was following the ridge for 10 miles until I reached my car. And that was the most bone-chilling fact about the nightmare I was already in. I had to run alongside the ridge, knowing that it would be there, only 50 feet away from me in the canyon walls. And what if it climbed up? I ran as fast as my feet would carry me, my lungs squealing in agony, but I did not care. 1.5 hours passed, and I knew that my car couldn't be far. When I figured out that I could only be a couple of 100 yards, I suddenly stopped, frozen fear. Something in my mind told me that I was not, under any circumstances, supposed to go to my car. I went down on all fours and started to get to a distance where I could see my car in the darkness. This is when total fear struck me. Right on the hood of my car was where it was sitting. It was then that I could see all of its features. A disformed body, skinny legs with loose skin hanging off, and fingers that were 20 inches long. Just when I was about to process that grotesque image, it looked me straight in my eyes. I got back up and started running as fast as possible again. The creature leaped off, accompanied by a scream that sounded as if it was coming straight from death itself. There was still a distance of a couple 100 yards between us. After about a mile, I broke down. My body was slowly giving up in this race for life and death. I knew there was no possible way of getting back to my car, so I just sat on the ground, waiting for fate to take its toll. I saw the creature approaching, grotesquely, on all fours. But that was when I realized that as much as that thing was capable of climbing, it did not run very fast. I saw that this was the last hope. It started running again. I could not go fast anymore, since my strength was already fading away, so I just stumbled forward, gasping for air. Turning around ever so often, only to see that thing running behind me in the same pace. This race was for life and death, and it continued for another 2 hours. I knew I wouldn't be capable of running the 5-hour driving distance, so I slowed down my pace in a total resignation. That was when I saw headlights coming towards me. I jumped in the middle of the road, waving, screaming in total despair. I couldn't believe my eyes when I saw the truck actually stopping. I turned around one last time, only to see the thing crawling away from me into the vast nothingness of the desert as I stepped into the truck. I knew I had barely escaped death. So that is my story of why you should never hike alone the northern rim of the Grand Canyon. Native American folklore has taught us that there are things out there in the desert you shouldn't mess with. And sometimes you should believe in the unbelievable.